So he's like during COVID, everybody wanted like houseplants. I think you guys talked about this with trends too. Like,
dude, we talked about this a year and a half, I think, before the pandemic about like succulents, right? Succulents. Yeah. Or like people are wanting to buy succulents online, and there's not a lot of options. You
were totally right. You were ahead of trend. What he did was he was like, cool, should I start creating this content? And he realized a very, like, you know, in the growth of any entrepreneur, eventually you start to realize that, hey, sometimes it's actually easier to buy than build. And so what he did was like, well, I could try to create all these articles, rank for them in SEO, or he found this website that was called like, you know, yourhouseplant.com. And he's like, this actually has like good content and it's good SEO. They just don't have any business around it. And so he's like, I think I could make this product a lot better, but I could like get this off a head start. So he does a who is lookup, and it's some Indian VC owns this as a side project. He buys it for $1,000. And then immediately, like month one, he's making more than $1,000 off this thing, and then grows that property. So enter Rudolph Haas. Rudolph Haas basically is a mailman from Milwaukee. He's now living in California, and he decides he wants to plant an avocado tree. So he goes and he buys some seeds and he tries to plant it, but like you have to, I guess, do some grafting process or whatever to get the thing to like take. And it didn't work. And so he's like, it didn't work, whatever. He thinks about just cutting it down, but he just doesn't get around to it or whatever. So he just lets the tree grow. And he lets it grow for like a year or two. And then his kids like notice that there's fruit on it. They pluck it, they open it up, and the kids really like it. This is how the story goes. Kids really like it. He's like, oh, why are you eating that? That's not good. And they're like, no, it's great. He tries it. He's like, oh, this is actually really good. It's way creamier. It's got like kind of a nutty taste. And there was way more space between the seed and the peel. So it was like softer, creamier, and there was just more of the actual like filling. And he's like, whoa, these are actually really good.
So Google started in the late 90s. And when they did, Sergey and Larry, the founders, they created this paper called The Anatomy of Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine. Riveting stuff. Right. But
please take my power writing course, Larry Page. Yeah. That title is awful.
And in that paper, they talk about like what they think is possible with a search engine, and they kind of started from an academic point of view, which is pretty cool though to see like their predictions. And there's this one line. It says, in general, it could be argued from the consumer point of view, the better the search engine is, the fewer advertisements will be needed for the consumer to find what they want. And then he says, the goals of the advertising business model do not always correspond to providing quality search to users.
So like 30 years later, they just went back and edited it and they're like, nah.
yeah. Like the subtext on their, like the subheadline is just psych. Like they just like, and then they said, for this reason, as well as for this reason, we expect that advertising funded search engines will be inherently biased towards the advertisers and won't be aligned with the consumer's needs. And they actually go on to say that they think a subscription service search engine is actually the answer.